Welcome back to another episode of Business Growth Talks, where we deep dive into strategies and insights that drive business success in today's fast-paced world. I'm your host, Mark Hayward, and today we have an extraordinary guest joining us today. Someone who is in the forefront of leveraging AI and outsourcing to help businesses not just survive, but thrive. Our guest today is Matt Kesby, the co-founder of GoTeam, a company that has been revolutionizing how businesses approach outsourcing and AI. GoTeam specializes in providing offshore AI-powered teams that help US and UK companies significantly reduce talent costs while maximizing efficiency and productivity. With a robust team of over 1,100 employees, GoTeam uses cutting-edge AI tools, both off-the-shelf and custom designed by their own 50-strong development team to give 100-plus clients, businesses a powerful edge. It's no wonder how recently he has been recognized as a great place to work. In today's episode, Matt will share insights and evolving landscapes of AI and how we can harness it for entrepreneurs and organizations for growth. To get a sense of Matt's expertise and passion for AI, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he shares valuable content on how companies and their workforce can thrive using AI tools. Welcome, Matt. How are you today?
Outstanding. Thanks for asking, Mark.
Thank you so much for joining me today. You have a great wealth of variety of different experiences and outsourcing, and you've been a remote worker for a long time. Before we go into the first question, how long have you been a remote worker?
That's quite an interesting question, because I think that the current business, the outsourcing business, is 10 years old, and I've been running it first from Australia, and then I now live in Bali, but the business is in the Philippines.
I love Bali.
Bali always gets a good response. But even the 10 or 8 years before that, I spent close to a decade heading up the strategy execution practice for a company called Franklin Covey, which most people know of. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that was quite remote work. I was working from home, using GoToMeeting back in those days, and coaching people online and so forth. Yeah, it's probably a good, 18 years, believe it or not. That's crazy,
wow.
I think, yeah.
That's amazing. First question I ask all of my guests is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
That's a great question. What does a business mindset mean to me? First thing that comes to mind is value, and the need to do a value exchange, and understanding that if you want a long-term sustainable relationship, we're always going to need to find the win approach. And I think sometimes people think win is the end result, but it's actually the mindset that sets you up to then drive the innovation that will benefit your clients. And the second piece I'd put in there for a mindset is words I heard Jim Collins say one time. And someone asked him if he could give one piece of advice, what would it be? And Jim thought deeply and pondered, as only Jim Collins does. And he looked up to the crowd and he said, 2 words, be useful. And that stuck with me, really hit me to the bone. And it goes to this value exchange concept, but just be useful. If you're fundamentally being in service for others to help them achieve their results, then to me, that's the business mindset.
So it's interesting you said about win. I came from a sporting background when I was younger, and everything was either win-loss. And it took me a little while to get into the business mindset of actually appreciating that just because you win doesn't mean that other people have to lose. It's very important to try and get that win mindset. Talk me through that idea of win. When you're dealing with clients, with employees, with customers, how do you implement that and try and get that to the point where you're both getting benefit from your product or service?
Yeah, fantastic. Let's do it in 2 parts. Let's do the client one, and then we'll talk about team members. And like anyone in business, when you first get started, if you're that startup, you tend to want to just take on any customer at all, because you're just trying to get the revenue in. And so in that instance, you're going for just win. It's not win-win, it's not win-lose, it's just, oh my goodness, I need to pay the team members' wages and so forth. And so you tend to take on any client, even if they're not the right fit long term. And I'm sure any listener that's been in business has been through this. And then you start to grow a little bit, and then you realise, there's some clients that might be consuming a large amount of time, but they're not actually returning a lot compared to a larger client. And it might be that essentially not quite fit, and it could be that the service that they need is not actually what you can offer them. And the hard and disciplined thing is to be able to have the conversation and say, we've been so grateful for this time that we've been working together. I think, though, to get the level of service or the fit that you need, perhaps ABC or XY would be a better fit for you. And that's hard for businesses to say, cut the revenue off and just focus on the target market. And of course, if you don't do that, and this is the interesting work by Dr. Stephen Covey, is that if you go for just win and there ends up being a loss for the other party, eventually you're going to get to lose. Or if you go for win-lose, where it's a win for you and a lose for the client, it's a short-term gain, eventually they're going to leave. They're not going to be happy with that. So you end up in lose. It's like, but if it's a lose for you and a win for the client, eventually you won't want to keep that, so it turns into lose. The only real mature approach is either win or no deal, and actually make that decision early on. Right. And crafting that fit depends on the type of business you are, of course. We're in a service business like what we're in, or software as a service business. It's a long-term relationship. And we need to establish, are we a good fit? And some of that comes down to, for the client, what are your goals? What is it you're looking to achieve? And then we need to see how our solution can fit their needs and actually help them to scale up and help their team members to exceed. Now, if we think over at the team member level, it's still just a human being. So we've got the same concept here around understanding goals and future. And those things change over time as well. And we've gotten rid of performance agreements in our organisation, and we've actually put in place win agreements. And so the win agreement is a very mature approach. We're looking at the metrics, we're looking at the KPIs, and we're also sitting down to understand what would be a win for you as a team member going forward and what would be a win for the organisation, and then drive alignment to that and then meet around that agreement. We used to do it on a quarterly basis. We've moved it to a 6-month basis now. And we actually built out the software tool to help do that, because we found that if you try and manage this at scale, it gets really tricky to do. Or the other thing is, as well, is that most leaders don't do these performance agreement or win agreement sessions very often, so they need structure in order to be able to execute it effectively. One more thing on the win is just being really clear on in the recruitment process. Are we actually taking the time and discipline to write the position descriptions and the job ads with enough clarity that when the person joins, it's not like looking around saying, is this the job? Like the job that was advertised, it doesn't seem to be to me and fit. And so I really think that putting things like metrics in job ads so people understand what game it is they're coming to play allows the person to know in advance whether or not they want to play that game. And that gets the win mindset happening as well.
Yeah. And I think hiring people is the hardest job in business, because I've been guilty of this, hiring people on their CV and you suspect they haven't got a great attitude. And attitude is much more important than skill set. You can train a skill set, you can't train an attitude. So I've been guilty of that in the past as well.
I don't think you're alone on that. I think that there's a whole range of bias that comes in when we go to recruit someone. And one of those biases is just time constraint. There's urgency to fill a role, and it's a time bias. Little own biases like the halo effect, where just get along with the person, or it looks and feels good. And if you really looked back, you might find, actually, I was talking most of the time and they were just listening. And that felt good. Yeah. And so we ended up recruiting the person, then you get started and you go, wow, they're totally different. We have between 1,000 and 3,000 people every week lining up at our door to come and join the organisation. And so recruiting is a core part of what we're doing, and it's something over time, with the right structures and frameworks in place, you can get some discipline. Like these days, we actually use AI to help that process.
Yeah, we'll come on to that a little bit later, because I do want to talk about how you're incorporating AI into your business. But let me ask you something else. Tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
That's a great question. Work ethic that comes from my parents. My sister and I grew up behind our parents' fish and chip shop. And when we were kids, at 6 years of age, kids were probably playing outside, we were working. And we thought that was normal. And we would be crumbing fish and slicing potatoes for chips and working away before school and after school. And still remember getting into almost a teenager and kids at school getting pocket money, and would turn to our parents and say, hey, what's this pocket money thing? And parents were like, yeah, okay, I guess you should get some money for the work that you're doing. And working in that environment and serving customers at a young age in a retail environment, you start to learn about body language and listening to the customer and the speed of delivery and the importance of it, and just getting that satisfaction that comes from being in service. And so work ethic and service that has come from those years, I will thank my parents forever and a day for the upbringing that we had, which was hard work, but lots of love as well.
I would imagine you probably smelt of fat
Deep
as well,
fried,
didn't
yeah,
you? On the oil.
Or Dad's fish fingers from slicing the raw fish, right?
Yeah.
They torment you with putting it over your face, and smelling of deep fryer. That's bringing back all the memories, brother. Thank you.
Hopefully they're good memories.
They are actually great memories.
Look, let's go on to GoTeam. So why don't you tell me about the business? Who do you serve? Who do you look after? And it would be good to just get an overview of the business now.
Absolutely. So GoTeam, the home of AI-powered people, we serve organisations generally with between 50 and 1,000 employees onshore to help them build their global or offshore teams powered by AI. And in doing so, we're able to, for every 100 employees that a company has, we can put an extra $2 million in net profit on the bottom line minimum within a 2-year period, which has a very large impact too if they're looking to exit those businesses, because they're multiples that are impacted. But it's more than that too in some cases. Because if we look at the salary arbitrage component, it's the first win. It's usually about 1/3 the price. But then the next big win comes in performance and productivity and how you deliver that.
Where do you get your outsourced people from?
So we're based in Cebu in the Philippines, which is where I am today in our studio in Cebu. And mainly Cebu, but also on some of the other islands. We've got one 500-seat office here and 2 more 180-seat offices opening in the next couple of weeks. And we run 24/7, so there's daytime and nighttime. And some team members work from home or hybrid or full-time in the office.
And what was the original vision in 2014 when you started this business? I'm intrigued.
Sure, 30,000 people by 2030.
30,000 people in 20... Really?
Yeah, it hasn't changed. My sister is the CEO. I brought her on as a shareholder as well in the first year of the business. And when I told her, she said to me, "You are crazy." But now she's into the vision, and so's the whole team. And now we built a whole range of technology that preps the business for a huge scale up. We grew at 44% last year, and we'll exceed that by far this year as well. And it is.
And is that growth on employees, revenue, profitability? What's your metric from?
Yeah, the core metric that we work on is people, because people is our product. We essentially sell management fee, managed operations fee on a monthly basis, plus the employment cost of the team member, whatever they are. We don't put any margin on it. It gets straight to the team member. And with that, it really is we've got one core metric, which is number of client-facing team members for the people business. Yeah.
And that's grown to 1,100 employees at the moment.
I have to check the report.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
how do you get such quality? How do you get the quality of employees?
There's a couple of pieces to it, or a few really. One is branding, the talent attraction piece, and that's a whole program that we put together. That apart from what you see published in the marketplace, but it's got to have substance behind it. We do things that people told us we were crazy to do when we first entered the market, but for us it just felt right, the right value exchange with the team member and with this win approach. And things like private medical insurance from day one. Don't wait until people are regularised 6 months later, and also give that for one of their family members as well at a starting point from day one. And we're known to be very hard to get into, which I think is a good thing. It's not easy to get a job with us. And we ensure that we pay above market rate as well, so you're getting the top talent wanting to come in and then creating this sort of competitive environment. But I tip the hat to my sister, who's the CEO, but also prior to this business, 20 years experience running recruitment agencies all around the world. And understanding how to pick top talent and actually having a system for it is a fundamental piece. And we go all the way through to English analysis assessment, to psychometric testing, and in different areas it's going to be position testing based on what's required. And when you stack all these things together, and you cannot underestimate how powerful a brand is as well for attracting the talent. And we do a lot too through referral-based programs, so team members that find talent that is aligned to our values. Like this business is designed from its values up. But and there's rewards there all the way through to every year. Whoever refers the most people gets a trip to Bali for a week, 2 flights, and put up in a private villa, and that's a bit of fun with the competition on that too.
Why did you move to Cebu in the Philippines? What was the driving force? Was it a financial reason, an economic reason, a lifestyle reason for that change?
Great question. So the decision to open in Cebu came... I've been using outsourcing since 2007, and I've made all the mistakes possible in those early years. And then while I was doing consulting work, doing management consulting, I could see the opportunity where businesses, even when they drive their results forward and you tidy up a lot of systems, there's just always still more work to do. And that not everyone can afford to continue to put team members on their current business models in the host country. So let's augment that with some team members offshore. And I actually had employee number 1, who's still with me today, actually heads up the customer service on our fintech. And he was helping me, and it just worked so well. And being a Filipino, the high empathy, incredible quality English, real critical thinker and problem solver. And I said, everyone needs a team member like Ian. And so I did a tour of the Philippines, looked at some different cities, and chose Cebu because it's got an international airport, it's got 5-star hotels on beaches, that doesn't hurt, and a very mature IT centre. And it's got lots of universities. It's actually the medical hub of the Philippines. It's where all the doctors and nurses come to train.
Okay.
So there's just a lot of talent in this area. It's more affordable than Manila. And
lifestyle-wise, yeah. So I went travelling in my early 20s and fell in love with Boracay. Oh, wow. So we're talking like 20 odd years ago, and it literally was the idyllic, most beautiful area of Philippines. I've actually had friends who have gone in the last sort of 5-6 years, and they said, who went with me traveling, and said how it's changed. It's become a lot more like 20 years ago. There were shacks and there were restaurants and bars and things like that, and then they had one big hotel. He said, like, in some ways it's sad. There's a lot more hotels. There's a lot more plastic and issue with rubbish and things, which we find very sad, because my thoughts of that 20 years ago was it was literally, wasn't quite Robinson Crusoe, but it was very close to that sort of idea. So yeah, have you been to Boracay?
Look, I haven't been there yet. I tend to fly into Cebu, go to work and fly back out. It's a very different city here too. You've got 20-30 story buildings. It's a high-rise city and so forth, and which I think sometimes, as I said, I spend half my time in Bali and half my time in Cebu in the Philippines. And so Bali's got maximum 3 stories. It's all... Yeah,
it's beautiful, Bali.
Right? And then you come here, it's a city. And so it's a very different feel than the island lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the AI in a minute. Just one last question about your team. How have you successfully fostered a great team culture with people working remotely and from different backgrounds? How have you managed to do that?
I think fundamentally there's a few things that we live by. I believe, and we believe, everyone deserves to feel safe. That's both psychologically and physically. Everyone deserves to feel like they're winning, and that requires actually understanding where are you at today and where do you want to be, whether that's a goal or your career or whatever it is. And that everyone should be in a winnable game. And this game for people, and like I spent close to a decade in strategy execution at Franklin Covey, and going into organisations and helping turn them around, deliver results. And everyone will all say our businesses are all different. That's true. But fundamentally, there's a couple of things that are the same. They've all got people in them, and we've all got to deliver results. And creating an environment where people are able to be seen and heard, they're feeling valued, they understand the direction that they're going, they can actually see on a daily basis if they're winning or losing, so they can take course correction and move forward. And that you've got the ability to design your future at the same time. And there's 4 key aspects I've shared there, which to us adds up to how you drive engagement and morale. Imagine you've got an equation. You've got engagement plus morale in brackets, and you multiply that by execution to the power of AI, and from that you get these incredible results. But it's a whole formula to make that work. And we're very deliberate on culture. As good old Drucker says, culture is strategy for breakfast. And most people will say things like, they've got a really good culture. But I said, what does that mean? And so it's being able to design what your building blocks are for your culture. And for us, a big part of it is the winnable game. People being seen and heard, being treated as humans. And we structure things in ensuring that everyone's in a structured one-on-one with their leader at a minimum once a month, if not fortnightly, depending on the speed of the team. And the Gallup will tell us that the stats on that it's just so foundational to make sure people get that one-on-one time. So we've got a whole system around that, not surprisingly, a bit of AI in there to help it as well. And there's many pieces of the puzzle, but there are a couple of them. I could talk on that one for a whole hour, for sure.
Yeah. I want to move on. I want to talk about AI because it seems to be a massive of your business and how you're being able to grow and be able to. So I want to go into that. You're launching Power Hour, which is, how does that help power productivity for your clients?
There's some great research done by McKinsey & Co. on flow state. Have you heard of flow state before? That's like when you're in the zone, right? So
you're in the zone. Exactly.
And when we get into flow state, McKinsey's research shares with us that you can achieve 200 to 500% output during that time. But the tricky thing is getting into flow state. It always takes effort, and it usually takes sort of 13 to 15 minutes to get there because you need to get your neurochemistry set up right to make it happen. And so we've probably all had this sensation before where you're excited about something you need to sit down and do. Perhaps you're creating a piece of content or something that you want to get done. You sit down at the computer, and in that moment, all of a sudden, all these other distractions, the fridge is more important, answering a message, distraction at the door and so forth. Really what's going on here is that you sit down to do the work and norepinephrine is released in your brain. And so as that's been released, it's actually quite useful because it helps us to get started and take action. But if it rises faster than dopamine, which is the reward neurotransmitter that makes you feel good, makes you want to do more, if norepinephrine rises more than dopamine, you will procrastinate, and you have something that's called the approach avoidance conflict. You approach the work, but then you go to avoid it, and it's just your neurochemistry. However, if you can have your dopamine stay higher than norepinephrine, you'll then release acetylcholine, and focus and attention will be easier, and you're going to get yourself into flow state. And now it always takes 13 to 15 minutes. You cannot fast track this thing. It's our physiology. Right. But here's the real kicker on this one, is that our smartphones, on average, we're awake for 17 hours per day, and we touch those phones on average every 9 minutes. And that distraction...
I can... Easily,
right? If not more. So that needs to be updated. It's probably out of date. It's only from 12 months ago. Or someone was lying when they were telling us. They wouldn't tell us.
So it's going to be the question. It's hour.
Liar. and so we keep cutting our ability to get into flow state. What if you could do 3 hours of work in an hour? Man, let's do that. Finish the day early or get onto something more interesting. And what we've found is that to get there, I don't know if you might remember at university days, you might have a study group, or if you've ever been in a software development team, you have a hackathon, and it's basically the energy of the group to really focus on that most important thing. And so what we do is a 3-phase approach in a Power Hour, which is, it's all about getting to this deep work flow state. And so there's three phases to it: plan, attack, celebrate. And we take 5 minutes of planning time, actually led by a Power Hour leader. We do it over Zoom.
Okay.
We're just about to release to the Zoom marketplace our Power Hour plugin, which goes into the app, goes into Zoom itself. And the Power Hour leader takes you through a 5-minute ritual where you focus on a single task, you turn off all your distractions, you let people know around you, you'll be in a Power Hour and you'll be back in an hour. You pick out a single task that you'll focus on for that period of time. There's a breathing exercise, and then a very important step, which is to set your own personal goal of your focus and flow state. And what will you go for focus and flow? From 0, none, to 10, where you're just totally in the zone the entire time, what are you going to go for? And you get a group of people online, and they're all there for the same reason. And so you get 9s, 8.5, 9s, and 10s. Then we go into the work, everyone leaves their cameras on, the microphone and the chat's off. 50 minutes of deep work, that's the attack phase. And there's a timer on the screen to help give you concentration. And at the end of it, we have a celebrate phase, which everyone jumps back online. We rescore ourselves, you get great numbers. Another breathing exercise, we break out into breakout rooms, have a chat with other people, just enjoy that energy. And essentially what we're doing is going through a recovery phase from utilising a lot of neurochemistry to get that incredible work done. And after 50 minutes of deep work in this focus and flow state through the power hour game, you get these incredible results.
Right, I've got a question about that. So I read a book called by Cal Newport, Deep Work, which is very much a similar idea to your power hour. And it's an interesting concept because a lot of the stuff that I do as a business owner, podcaster, running the agency is actually connecting with people. So it is a distraction, but equally a large portion of my role is communicating with people, messaging people, calling people, Zoom calls, doing like whatever it is. And so that interaction is really embedded in my business and my life. And I always think back, and I'd be interested to hear your idea, is that idea of deep work or a power hour where you're focusing in on something just specifically for that hour. It really depends on what your job, what your business, your role is to be able to get that. So if I was writing a book, I probably, like caveat, I probably won't write a book because I really don't enjoy the writing. I much prefer speaking, having a chat on podcasting. I find that a lot more easier and more relaxing. But if I was writing a book and doing something like that, or writing a report, then I could say, yeah, that's having that deep work mentality, to have that power hour mentality would be really beneficial for the task. But how do you incorporate it if your job, your role, your business is enmeshed in people and interacting with others?
I wonder if do you enjoy all that connection and connecting with people to make this?
Yeah, I think I do. I think it's actually part of why. So the idea of service, the idea of working with people. I love technology and what it does, but I always think behind business that yes, you can have a KPI for your growth or your profit or your revenue or whatever it is, or employee. But actually behind every KPI is a person, or the KPIs, there's people, whether it's your employees, whether it's your clients, and your clients we might be able to deliver X amount of growth for a client or X number of shows for a client. But actually there's always people behind whatever if it's a service-based industry. I suppose to a product as well, in an essence of you still need buyers of your product, but from a service-based industry, I think for me it is all about people and the people that I'm working with, the people that I'm servicing.
And so the reason I ask the question is to understand that, and say as you're servicing the people, you're interacting with them, you might find, depending on your role and what you do and what brings you joy, that could sometimes be your flow state moment as well. If I was a basketball player and I'm getting in the zone, I'm shooting the shots, I'm running up and down the court, there's lots of distraction actually going on, people cheering and so forth, but I'm pushing those thoughts out and I'm focusing on the game. I might be a salesperson, and great discipline every day is that direct outreach that you do, whether that's digitally or you're on the good old phone, still works. And that you've got to do that work. You just has to get done. You may not feel like it. You've got to push through it, but then you get in the zone, you get some results. You start to see that the progress, and you keep going. But also the idea of doing a power hour and deep work, we can't do it all day long. You can't sustain it. It's too heavy workload on our brains. And so some of the work we do is deep work, power hour worthy. Other stuff, it's just not. You've just got other work you've got to do. And so this, for me, it goes to this whole, how do you help people, whether it's in an office or working from home, to create an environment that you can trigger this. And working from home is full of distractions. That is not the culture of an organisation. It often can be, that's the home culture, and you're doing some work. And so and it was once said to me, if you can get most of the people most of the time doing the most important things, then you have a culture of execution. And I think environment plays a key role in it, and that's why things like getting together for these deep work sessions, power hour, hackathon type feel, actually shifts your culture, because you can get most of the people most of the time doing the most important things during those sessions. And
you're right, flow state can come in many different varieties. It doesn't have to be just writing a report. But it's what people often think that a flow state needs to be on your computer, writing, coding, developing, whatever it is. But as you say, I actually enjoy I get in the flow state of being able to interact with people. On the podcast is a different matter because I research an hour of every guest that I have. So I get into a flow state on that, and I'm thinking about the person, thinking about the questions I want to ask.
100%. I get into flow state when if it's on our YouTube channel and I'm teaching about how to use AI at work and sharing that, because it brings me a lot of joy to do the teaching and sharing. And I can tell that just jumping on a podcast with you, you're totally in flow state, right? You know that you're sharing information to serve the community, and it's fun. So it's a good place.
So I think it's being present.
100%.
And I was having this conversation with a client of ours, and he was like, what moves me from a B, like an A, B, like a grading, a B plus guest to an A plus guest? And I said, one of the major things is to be present with the conversation and what you're answering, answer the questions, be thoughtful in what you're trying to say. And that's something that I work very hard on my podcast when I'm talking to my guests, is really listening. And that's why before we started, I said that I don't mind going off on tangents, because you get a question, you explore it, and actually then other things come out of that conversation. And that for me, flow state then, because I'm thinking about you and about what you're going to answer.
Stitching it all together, you're seeing the value.
Yeah, it's making sense now.
Yeah.
So how else are you using AI for your business and for your clients?
I've got two big ones at the moment. So one for us and our clients, you mentioned earlier that actually getting the right talent is just so critical. And there's a real recruiter, I call it the recruiter's dilemma. It's this challenge that you need to get high quality talent at the best possible price in the shortest period of time, and they're needed yesterday type of thing. And so we all get pushed with all these biases around recruitment and hiring. And we have between 1,000 and 3,000 people apply every week to work with us. And so that's a lot of people to try and get through interviews. It's quite hard. And you can miss great people just because you couldn't schedule the time. And we've been building software for many years, and we built our interview room AI. And what it does is the AI writes the job description, it writes the questions to be asked in the interview, it writes the answers, poor, good, and excellent. You can do the human in the loop moment, adjust these things. And then post the ad online, and then you can go have people apply from LinkedIn, click on the apply button, and rather than going through to try and book an interview, they go direct to the interview with the AI. The AI asks them the questions, they reply. Those answers are then, the video is recorded, and the answers are transcribed, and then there's a full analysis done on their answers. And so each answer gets a scoring, full transcription is shared, you can play back each of those questions on the videos. And it even actually gives feedback both to the hiring manager as well as to the applicant on what they did well or what they excelled in the answer and room for improvement. And so that feedback goes directly to the applicant straight after. And
so before we go any further, I want to ask about your AI. It would be if it was on a Zoom call or a video recording, it would be me being interviewed and you would be an AI generated person, would you?
We just use like an avatar and a question on the top of the screen, because we're not quite at that zone yet to have the full animated person. It takes a lot more computing power and a lot more cost. And really this is about doing it as cost effectively as possible so that everyone can get an interview. But it will get to a point in the future, you can imagine, where the AI will look like a human and doing the interview. That is where it's going to eventually go. But right now, it's like if you're using a mobile phone, it's like jumping on WhatsApp video or FaceTime, except that your picture is the largest picture and there's just a little icon for the AI at the top. You hear the AI voice and the words get transcribed onto the screen, so you've got the question there to refer to as well.
What's your feedback from the people that are being interviewed? Do they feel that it's more difficult than being interviewed by a human?
Here's some really interesting feedback on this one. So first of all, we actually there's a video from me as a welcome before the AI interview. And so we pre-frame that up so people understand what's coming next. So there's no surprises. People don't
Right.
get surprises.
Yeah.
And share that the intent behind this is to remove the bias in the interview and give you the opportunity to actually get the assessment rather than maybe your CV isn't written as well as the next person. That doesn't mean that you're not highly capable and you've got what it takes. You're exactly who we're looking for. Also, sometimes your calendar just doesn't align to when a recruiter could have an in-person interview. Or what about the recruiter or the hiring manager? The person doesn't know how to ask the right questions, they don't listen well enough, and so the analysis has all this bias behind it. So when we explain and we frame that up, that you actually get an unbiased approach, and it's the fairest approach. You get to put yourself forward. That becomes welcoming. And it's actually then post the interviews where we get the feedback of getting instantaneous feedback on how well they went and what they can do to further improve is really useful. And
what about the questions asked? Are they designed by a human or are they designed by AI?
The questions are designed by AI but prompted by us initially. And then you can customize the questions and put whatever questions in you like. And you can then write your question, have the AI help write it further, or have the AI help write the answers to save you some time. And then we're big believers in human in the loop in the approach where once you get your output from the AI, you can interact with that, you can make some adjustments and then have the AI keep going. That's really where things are going in the future that we see, this human in the loop approach.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love ChatGPT.
Cool.
I absolutely love it as a starting point for brainstorming something or understanding something when I'm crafting content for social media. Now, the key thing for me is, though, and this has been after trying it just as an outright prompt and trying it with and speaking to people that are in the industry. And one of the things that they say is when you're creating a prompt, let's just say a social media post, and we're talking about AI now, the benefits, and I still think, and this is what people have advised me, is write your post out, not word by word, but just write out what you want to include and then hit it and say, ChatGPT, please write me a LinkedIn post. And that seems to be, for me, a much better way than giving it a prompt and then them not really hitting the points that I want to make. So my question to you regarding AI is, we're not at the point where, like you said about the questions being asked, we're not at the point that they can auto-generate questions perfectly for what with the mood, with the atmosphere you're trying to create in that sort of questioning. So what do you see the state of AI, and where do you see it going in the next sort of 5-10 years?
So let me answer a little bit around the questions, then I'll come into the situation. So our questions get generated based on the position title and the position description for that particular role.
Right.
And we pre-prompt it to drive some thoughtful things around metrics and so forth. And where this is going, I'll give you a sneak peek into what's coming next with us, is that AI needs additional context for that particular applicant. And so when the applicant is able to share, like they log in, connect through LinkedIn, and we can then see what roles they've done in the past. Soon, what you'll see through us is that just like a recruiter, the questions will evolve during the session. Typical recruitment question might be, hey, when you worked at XYZ company as a leader, can you tell us about a time that you had a leadership challenge? What was it and how did you handle it? Now, that response that comes out from someone, a good recruiter or questioner would listen to the response and then maybe say things like, tell me more, could you go a bit deeper? Do you have any metrics around that? What was ultimately, what was the impact? These sorts of things. And these models with AI are getting better and better. OpenAI released GPT-4o. And so we've got, with that, the cost has come down by half. The speed of inference it's lightning fast now. And so we're now at this point, and they've also started to put those voice models, and it looks like the voice and text models onto the same GPUs, to the point that we've reduced the latency of the speech, which it's called the Doherty scale. It's like how fast the response can come back. And we see in the videos now, it's like human-like in its response. I think, where is it going? Speech is a huge zone that we'll be shifting to, or to your
what's that?
speech,
So what's that?
Voice. Our
Speech. I thought. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So we'll say you've got speech to text. So it goes into you speak in the microphone. It gets transcribed to text. That goes to the language model for its assessment to do what it needs to do, and then that is going to come back to us next, either as text or it'll come back as speech, is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's happening in there is something called function calling, and that's when we ask the AI a question, and to actually do a task for us, that it's going to then connect to an external software system via an API. It's going to send a function through that API to execute that action. Now, this takes us into the world of something called an AI agent. Have you ever heard of AI agents before?
No, tell me.
For those that haven't, an AI agent is an AI entity that does the work you do for you. And up until recently, it's really been the world of software developers that could craft these AI agents, interacting with the language models and taking action for them. And we recently actually built a no-code AI agent builder. So you can build your own agents to actually do some of the work for you. And a classic example is that marketing one, let's say the LinkedIn post that you shared a moment ago. And what you can do is engage. Imagine if you're doing more than just a LinkedIn post, but you're going to write an article that was based on the latest research from the internet. And then if you could get the world's best researcher to help you, and then you get the world's best headline writer to write the headline for your blog, the world's best article writer, and the world's best Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram copywriters. And essentially that's what we do. We create an agent for each of those specific tasks and then bring them together in a workflow to execute those items. And you can then just chat to the AI, you can talk to it, or you can type in. I just talk to the AI now because it's fast. We speak at 140 words per minute on average, and I definitely don't type that fast. So I just ask it to help me. It then goes off and finds the agents, brings them together, executes that. And that particular, what I shared there, you can spend a couple of hours doing research, and you can easily spend a couple of hours writing a really good article. And then you've got to create the posts and put the emojis in, and then write an email to your database, all on that particular article to bring the traffic together. It's easy to spend a day there, 6 hours to a day. This now does it in under 60 seconds.
That's crazy.
Crazy, right? And the other area too is like in business, Kinsey & Co., another bit of research they did, was that we tend to spend about 20% of our week looking for data inside our organisations and getting questions answered from other people.
Yeah.
A day is lost on that. And what if we could actually just ask the AI to interrogate all the data that we have in our business and bring the answers forward? And that's where what we're doing now is having every team member has their own AI agent that they can chat with and soon talk to verbally as well, that's grounded in the data of the organisation or for their role. So rather than question. So say you've got someone in your company who's a marketeer. So they're a marketing person. So they might need an AI agent for marketing. They might need an AI agent for copywriting. They might need an AI agent for if they're strategy. Yeah. And so you're basically creating a team around that one individual, and you're saying a copywriter, whoever the best copywriter in the world is, you're saying you want the copywriter to write like this person, you want the strategist to be like that person. So you can almost do that now in ChatGPT, because you can say write a script in the style of a comedian, Eddie Izzard, Jimmy Carr, whoever it was. So you can already do that. What's moving your idea of these AI agents beyond me going into ChatGPT and saying marketing strategy for my business, your business? A number of things drive it for me. One is speed, that we can get this out. So once you've set up your agents and you've got a workflow and you can repeat that again. And what we're helping with the prompting, we've got a lot of advanced prompting behind it. So when you go to create an agent, let's say a copywriter, you just put in copywriter as the name of the agent, and then the AI writes a goal statement, a backstory, and the general tasks that they're going to do. Set tonality in the type of communication, influential, persuasive, direct, what it's going to be. And then we even use
Right.
disc profiling to further enhance the personality of the agent itself. And so then when we do this, we've got to come back again to it on a regular basis. And soon what we'll see is where we're building out routines. So you can then set these on regular pace to come and produce these results for you. And underneath, the model that we're using now is from ChatGPT. It's GPT 4.0, but there's other models available as well. And we're going to see some advanced things coming shortly, like the ability to make phone calls and send SMS and emails and then receive them and respond to them as well. And so this is where we start to give these AI agents arms and legs out into the real world to help do some work. But I do say, human in the loop is a real key on this one, especially as you get started. We don't need AI agents running off and doing all sorts of activities unsupervised. Just like when we have a new team member starting, they need some guidance at first. Yeah. And it's fascinating. We actually do a session on YouTube every Friday now on how to do this, set up the flows, and it's a lot of fun.
And what's the channel called?
It's at AI Powered People. So AI Powered
great.
People. Here we go. I think I've got it on my shirt today. AI Powered.
Yeah, you got it on the sheet. Right. Perfect. Before we do the last 6 questions, I actually want to ask you a few questions, quite short, sharp answers, because I want to know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
What type of leader are you?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. For me, I live by a lot of frameworks. They help to guide me. Close to 10 years at Franklin Covey's really helped. The work by Stephen M. Covey on leading at the speed of trust, that there's 13 behaviours of trust. And I think when you get that language into you, it changes the way that you communicate. I think going very heavy on listening, seeking to understand so people feel heard. That comes from the 7 habits, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So that we can actually open people up, because I believe that everyone has got far more potential inside them than what their current situation or they allow themselves to be released. And our purpose statement at work is to help businesses to scale and people to exceed, which means to go beyond your own personal expectations. So, unleashing potential, that's my zone that I love to be in as a leader.
What's your risk appetite, and has it changed over the years?
Massively high, it's always been. As someone close to me once said, if there's a fire, I'll be seen running into it and they'll be seen running away from it. I started my first business when I was 19, and I had a waterfront restaurant by the age of 22 with 77 employees, a catering company and a cafe, and totally out of my depth, and opening international businesses and fintech these days, all sorts of things going on. So very high risk appetite. What's
your idea of resilience?
We have 3 words that we, with our team members at every town hall meeting. In fact, actually, it's on this mug here. Okay. You are brave, resilient, and remarkable. And to answer the question, resilience is to go back again. But let's see, first of all, brave, resilient, remarkable. You're brave. No one's really brave in the moment, but you do it anyway. Bravery comes after the fact. And then whatever it is you learn, it's not a failure. You have a learning point, might be difficult, whatever it is. But when you go back again, because you know that there's something that great could come from it, that's the resilient part. And if you go back enough and enough, and you keep pushing on, you'll eventually get to remarkable, that outcome at the end. And resilience to me is not giving up, pushing again, and knowing that something great is going to come. So stick out.
In 2024?
Investing in people and software development are the key areas. And so from people, it's about both human capital for people to do work, but also investing in their growth, personal growth. We do a lot around helping people with their own personal leadership and leadership in business and training.
And are you investing in real estate, stocks, anything like that?
No, because I'm investing in our own businesses. The software development is a big investment for us, and building out the products. And like we just opened up a couple of offices, so they're big investments when they seat a couple of hundred people each.
They are. And people are absolutely... I ask that question. I don't often ask that question, but I'm interested because investing in alternate things, but actually sometimes reinvesting into yourself is actually much more powerful and growing as a person. I do that through podcasts, audiobooks. A friend of mine actually did something for me talking about deep work. Do you know EOS?
Yeah, Entrepreneurial Operating System, absolutely.
operating system. He spent 2 hours basically breaking down the whole, I think it's like an 8-hour session that you have with an EOS practitioner at the start. And he's very good at prompts on ChatGPT. He's worked in AI a little bit, and he just went. He spent 2 hours and he's got the whole of the EOS practitioner 8-hour session that he's created of a ChatGPT, and he's shared it with me, and I was looking through it this morning just thinking, wow, that is the potential that you do have at your hands to be able to build something and analyze something.
You'll love our AI agents. Make sure you get a situation.
I will recommend it to you. That's fine. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. First question is, what's the best decision that you made?
Best decision that I've made is to take a risk into understanding software development and building out products. And yeah, for me, that's the best because it's such an exciting world ahead now.
Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
I don't do it often enough, but it's hire slow and fire fast. Because
hire slow and fire fast, right? Yeah.
Hire slow and fire fast. Make a very informed decision. But if the person's not the right fit culturally, then do the right thing and help them find a place that is. And it always sounds hard.
Back to the culture, can't it?
Key, right? And that person, if they don't want to be there and all that energy is negative, it just spreads around on everyone else. And then you look at a team where everyone really wants to be there. They're being seen, feeling heard. They're driving results. It's just electrifying. Yeah, and so
it is. It's empowering, isn't it? It's just to be part of. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
Yeah, the person who's had the biggest influence on me in my career is a guy called Chris McChesney. And he was one of the authors of the 4 Disciplines of Execution. And it was global practice leader at Franklin Covey. And I love that man. He's got so much energy. But the 4 Disciplines of Execution, if you haven't picked that book up in business and you run teams of people, it's a must read for how to drive, how to deliver upon goals that require a change in human behaviour. And the guy's just an artist at the way he communicates. And so I feel like I have his voice in my head at times when I'm making decisions and so forth. So yeah, check out Chris McChesney.
I will do. Tell me about a regret that you have.
Wow, a regret that I have. COVID was definitely a very interesting time, and spent the first 90 days in the Philippines. Our lockdown lasted like 18 months. It was brutal. Military on the streets. You had to have one pass to go to the supermarket between 2 houses, and you could go only every 3 days. It was really brutal. The majority of our team members had to work from home, but 100 of them needed to stay in the office. And for the first 90 days of COVID, I actually lived in the office with 100 people. Many of them actually stayed there for close to a year. Imagine that. Wouldn't happen in many other countries. We turned it into summer camp. We made it a lot of fun. So I stayed there for the first 90 days. Now, I did have a pass to go home and 2 young kids, but I stayed there for the team, for morale and so forth. And I regret not sneaking out and going back and seeing my kids a bit more frequently. That certainly sits on my mind. Although I got a great relationship with them, I love them very much. I just think during that time I could have got a bit more. Crazy story.
Yeah, it is. It sounds insane what they were doing in the Philippines. So the government's mindset was more cautious.
Super cautious, and it's somewhat understandable because you have multi-generations living together in the same house, very young, very elderly. So when it spreads, the risk is it's going to spread really fast and there's going to be lots of deaths and so forth. But there was areas where I firmly believe it spread and it just burnt itself out. And it didn't have as big an effect, but the government held on to the controls afterwards. And I think they're trying to do the right thing to keep people safe, and a very challenging time to make decisions and navigate.
Yeah, it was an incredibly difficult time. What are you most proud of?
Oh, wow. Such a dad answer. I'm most proud of my little boy. He's turning 9 years old. And he's just got the biggest heart and this view on the world that makes you go, you know what? There's so much love and abundance there. Why in life do we ever respond to things based on fear? And so inspiring to see the world through his eyes. And so super proud of that young man. I just think that he is going to have some incredible impact on the world, and it's going to come from this huge heart that he has at a place of love. And I think we all can have a lot more of that in our lives, because it's just pure abundance, right? And
so I've got 2 kids. I've got an 8 and 10-year-old girl, and I find that, yes, as a parent, you are teaching them, you are guiding them, you're molding them, but actually they teach you a lot. They teach you a lot as a parent and as a person, and as you say, like, that's to an extent the innocence, but equally the just seeing like my resilience. My kids have been incredibly resilient over the last couple of years with various different things, and it's really inspiring as a parent. We made them, me and my wife made them, but equally it gives you something that you're like, oh, okay, so they had a really hard time there and they've come through it and they've flourished, and it's incredibly exciting. But actually, like, as kids, with kids, you learn just as much as you teach.
100%. And it's so joyful to see their words and their ideas come out, and if you've had some time to sculpt and guide and influence, and then they come back and present it in their own way, it's it's so beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Why do you do what you do?
Very fortunate to set the purpose and the values of this organisation close to a decade ago, and there's these 2 words, scale and exceed, that really excite me if I distill it down. I really love to. So scale is very different from growth in business. It's about how to find a way to replicate things, and then exceed is about going beyond one's own expectations. And I lean more into that exceed part. What really brings me joy is to see someone go beyond what they think they can do. They're getting out of their comfort zone. They're in the growth zone. And behind me is the screen, and today we've done a few live streams, including one to 500 of our team members, and one of the team was in the studio. You bring them up on stage and totally out of their comfort zone. But then afterwards, they're like, I did it. That feels really good. Yeah. And I think that as leaders as well, the biggest gift that we can have is to tap someone on the shoulder and say, you've got this. I believe in you. Yeah. And that passes a piece of energy over, and they're like, me? Is it me? It's like, yeah, you got this. And they go off and do it. And that's transformative in people's lives, and it's a big responsibility. But I think that, in essence, is what drives me the most, is to see that. Use.
Lastly, what does legacy mean to you?
Legacy can be passed on in different ways. Like in my personal mission statement, it finishes off with to leave a legacy of homes around the world for my children's children to enjoy. Places of education and laughter and safety and entertainment. So for me, it's about giving to that next generation in the legacy, but it doesn't have to be homes in this way. It's physical homes. Homes can also be places that they can go to that are memorable stories. It could be the connections in friendships that get passed down as well, although originally designed as the physical home locations. But legacy also goes on with, for me, things like frameworks and communication. If I have figure out how to truly instill that, whether it's in family or team members, I think that legacy gets passed on. I know in our organisation, our culture, it's a lot about communication and frameworks, and if that can benefit others, that's a win.
Yeah. And lastly, where can people find you? And I believe you've got a giveaway as well.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on our YouTube channel at AI Powered People, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Matt Kesby, MatKesby. And then connect with us through our AI agent platform. We'll have a link with a special access to 30 days. And then for sure, check that out and come join me on a live stream or see us on the YouTube channel so you can play around with it. And it's called Rea Pro, REA.PRO. But we've got a special link that will have Mark Hayward in the URL, so
brilliant.
People know that we've been introduced through you. But they're the 2 easiest ways.
And that will all be in the show notes. Just to tell everyone, that will all be in the show notes for you guys to see.
Fantastic.
Look, thank you so much, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. That lovely balance between, which I think is so important for technology, the people aspect of it, which you seem like you've created a great team and building a great team, but actually leveraging technology to work together. They're not separate entities. They always should be together and building in simultaneously to make great growth. It's been very inspiring. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
I really hope you've enjoyed that content. It's a really fascinating interview that I've done there. So please do, if you are enjoying this content, please do give it a like. Please do give a subscribe. It'd be really good to boost the subscriptions. It really makes a difference to the algorithm in YouTube. So thank you for that. If you do hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and you'll get all of the content. You'll get notified when all the content is available. Thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Thanks a lot.